Hello and welcome to the Screen Building Fundamentals course. In this video we'll be looking at building the screens that allow us to interact with our applications. Here's an example of the screen we'll be creating in this video. It displays the data from the company table, associated employees and a map. All the elements that make up this screen are available from the palette we selected when we created our application in the first video. It's worth spending a little bit of time to familiarise yourself with the palette to see what's available. To help you with this, we've provided example screens which are made up of the items you'll find in the palette, and these examples can be found in the Serene Grey app in your main menu. There are a number of pre-configured examples you can use as a reference point, such as the splash screen we see here, and also an example screen with filtering and different types of layout. As well as pre-configured items in the palette, you can create your own bespoke components to suit your needs. These can be saved as reusable templates and placed in your own palette. This is beyond the scope of this course, but search in the help for creating a palette to find out more. This video assumes you've completed the ERD Fundamentals course and have tables in your application. If you haven't, then I recommend you pause here, click on the ERD button in the header to open up the ERD and access the Fundamentals course there and complete it before continuing. Before we start, let's go over a few things that you may find useful. We can hide the layers, context help or repository using the associated buttons. If you find yourself with a lot of tabs open, we can move the tags by dragging them. We can also tick the pin button to keep the tab available. To lock a screen so that we can interact with it, we can either right click on it and choose lock screen, or choose the lock item on the toolbar. To unlock it, simply right click again and choose unlock. When editing content in PhixFlow, there are two save options. The first is the save option, and this will just apply the change. The second is the save and close option. This applies your change and also closes the properties box. To experience the application as the users will, we can click on this button in the top right hand corner to switch between design mode and app mode. Let's take a look at creating a screen to display the data in our company table. Open your ERD diagram. Click on the company table, and from the menu select Create Screen and complete the details as required for your new screen. I'll enter the name companies list. I'll leave Open Maximised enabled so the screen can take up all available space. This is useful as the screen will hold a lot of information, and I'll select this option as my template as it's a good starting point that contains all the buttons for add, edit and delete, and we can edit this template to suit. And click Create Screen. Here the sequence has been speeded up, but it can take a few seconds to load while the screen is being generated. On the canvas which opens, a toolbar is shown that provides all the tools necessary to build our screen, such as the palette, screen properties, and access to the tables which contain our data. The palette itself provides the components we need to build our screens, and it's divided into logical sections to make things easier to find. Because we created our screen from the ERD, PhixFlow is providing the available attributes for our screen. If we create the screen directly, we can select the table option from the toolbar and drag the desired table onto the screen to achieve the same result we see here. Here we'll add our attributes by dragging them onto the screen. You can select all the attributes by ticking the box at the top or select them individually. And now we're asked how we would like to display our data. Here I'm going to select grid. PhixFlow has recognised that we've created a display grid and asks if we'd like to create an associated input form as well. We'll say yes. We'll follow the wizard and use the green plus to create a new screen that we can then use to enter our data. I'll enter a logical name, a company's form. I'll also untick Open Maximise as I want to change the way the screen will appear in a moment or two. We'll choose the edit form as our template and create a screen. PhixFlow now creates three actions. One to open our new screen in insert mode, one to open an existing record to edit it, and also a delete option as well. We now associate the actions called action flows with our buttons. I'll drag add to the add button, edit to edit, and delete to delete. Also note you can add actions to the grid, and these will be triggered when the user double clicks on a record in the grid. Here I'll add the edit option to the grid by dragging and dropping it. We'll close our dialog boxes and we'll lock the screen. This allows us to interact with it, and we'll use the edit button to open up the screen we just created. The screen opens and it's locked. So the first thing we must do is unlock it. And now we'll need to tell PhixFlow which attributes to use. To do this, we click the attributes button. And from the available attributes, we select which ones we want, and we can drag these onto the screen. We're creating an input form, so we'll choose the form option. PhixFlow then asks us if we want to create the actions for an input form. We'll say yes, and then like we did before, we'll drag our save action flow onto the save button and the delete onto the delete button. We'll close the pop-ups, and then we'll see our form fields on our screen. To reorder any of the attributes, click on the field and drag it to the desired location. Notice that in the layers section, there's a highlight that indicates where the item will be placed. Of course, you can also select the item in the layers section and drag it to the desired location as well. If you want to change the template for an input form, we simply right click and select Change Template. Here we'll be presented with a number of options to choose from, and I'm going to select for the website. We'll change this for the interactive field with a button, and this will allow us to open up the website by clicking this button. With the form laid out as we want it, the next job is to set any validation, such as which fields are mandatory or restricting certain fields to specific characters. To set this up, we select the innermost part of our form field, and in its properties we go down to the validation section. Here we can enable the mandatory option and also enable the validation and select which validation we want. It's also possible to add other validations as well, but to find out more about this, search validation in the help or click the validation link in the context help. We'll make some final adjustments to our screen. Here I'm going to add a header, so I select the header and I can enter my value in the default value on the right. Now not all changes are dynamic, so we will need to close and reopen the screen in order for us to see this change. So I can see my header's changed. What I'll need to do now is unlock my screen so I can edit it again, and we're just going to change the layout. To do this, I click the properties, and in the style settings I'm going to change the width and height of my screen and tell PhixFlow where I want it to be positioned. I set the width to 400, the height to 100%. We'll position it from the top and from the right. Save my changes, and we can see here that the form now is laid out on the right hand side. We've now completed the company's form screen that allows us to add and edit data. Let's return to our other screen and add some more useful features there too. When we drag a component from the palette onto the screen, it highlights indicating where we suggest you should place it. Let's see this in action. In the palette, click on Tiles Additional and select Double Row. Drag this onto the screen and the tile container highlights as tiles should be placed in here, as this is designed to provide us a responsive layout. This means the screen will respond to the device that we're viewing it on, whether it be a mobile or a laptop device. It also includes all the spacing properties and controls how the tiles are laid out. Let's provide a name for our tile, and we'll call it Additional Info. We can now add information to these tiles like we saw at the start of the video. We'll add a map and some employee contact details in the form of a card container to display all the information. Starting with employees, we'll use the contact card container as our template, as this closely matches what we need already. From the palette, click and drag contacts onto your screen and provide it with a useful name. We now need to add a backing table to this card container to tell it where to get its information from. To do this, click on it to open its properties. These appear on the right hand side, and from the drop down I will choose Employees. Our template has a number of styled fields already, and we can just tell PhixFlow where to get the attributes from. To do this, right click on any of the fields. Here I'll select the first name and I'll choose to add a backing attribute. Select the required attribute, and that's it. Now I need to repeat this for last name and role as well. If we look at the layers section, we can now see that the role has a connected symbol to indicate that it has a backing attribute, whereas company does not. To add new attributes to our card container, we can right click on it and select Add Attributes to Component. And from the attribute picker, we simply drag these across and a new attribute is added. We don't need to do that here, so I'm just going to close this, but if you'd like to know more about it, again, just search for card containers in the help. Card containers only show one card when the screen is unlocked. So lock your screen and we'll see the results. The contacts are showing, but we're seeing all the contacts for all companies. Let's unlock the screen again and we'll add a filter. We simply drag company ID from the grid onto the card container, and PhixFlow can create a filter for us. The first section is what we're filtering on, the second section is how we're filtering, and the third section is what we're using to filter by. In our case, we're filtering on our contact card using its company ID, where that equals the company ID from our company's view. Note that if you want to edit or remove this filter at any time, you can click on the card container to open its properties, and in the background filter rules, here's where you'll find all of your filters. We'll now add a map. Open the map section in the palette and drag the map onto the empty tile. This map is just a map. If you want a map already in a tile, this can be found in the Tiles section of the palette. The map in the palette requires a Google API key in order to dynamically generate the map. To create one, search Google API in the help. This can be set up later, and the instructions are provided in the component itself. For now, we'll continue the map as it is. To see the application as the end users will, we'll switch to app mode now, and when you lock the screen, you'll also notice that the map will now render rather than showing a URL. We've successfully created 2 screens to display and edit our company data. If you'd like to add the reporting shown in the intro at the start of this video, add a collapsible horizontal tile, and this will be used to hold our reports. Drag it to the right location. And note that in order to open up the collapsible area, we must first lock the screen, expand the area and unlock it, and now we're able to edit it. We'll also add a split area, so we can add 2 reports to it like we saw at the start. In the context help, you'll find a link that explains how to set up pie charts and bar charts. Other charts are available, and you can simply search the help for reporting. Now let's tidy up the screen and give each area a header. Some changes require the screen to be closed and reopened for the changes to be applied. Let's now look at making the centre tile larger so we can see more of the grid information. We do this by clicking on the item. Here I'll use the layers section as it makes it much easier to select the outer area of the tile. In the properties, click on the styles tab. This is where you set up all of the styles for the component, and we'll cover a little bit more on this later in the video. We're going to scroll down and tick this box to enable the style, and then enter a suitable width. This can be in pixels or as a percentage of the screen width. So finally, let's round off by looking a little bit more at the styles. There are different types of style, and you can search inside the help for screen styling to find out more. Here we'll look at the style settings. These show all the styles applied to our components. Styles with a tick next to them show that the style has been applied directly to our component. Styles without a tick show the style has been inherited from a shared style. If you want to see where that style has been applied, you can click on the hyperlink next to the value, and that will open up the style for you. If you want to override or apply a style, tick the box next to the style and apply a value. Some useful styles to be aware of are the direction controls. These control the flow of direction of the content within an area. Typically we'd apply this to a tile or a tile container. Here we can see we've set it to row, and the buttons now have moved to the right hand side of the grid. We'll just change that back to column, and we'll see we get a column layout again. There's also the fit to available space option. And this will consume all available space on the screen along the direction it's set into. For example, if the screen is set to a row, then it will expand horizontally to take up all the space it can. And if it's set to a column, it will expand vertically. If you disable this option, the component will grow to fit the size of its content. Therefore, it's often a good idea to set a minimum size on some of your components if you're going to do this. That brings us to the end of this video on screen configuration. It is a large topic, and we've only covered the fundamentals. If you'd like to learn more, head over to the Learning Centre and you'll find an in-depth course on screen configuration. You'll also find useful links in the context help, and these will help you with specific techniques such as styling card containers or building reports. That is the end of this video, so thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.